What's more important, the journey or the destination? Actually, it's the company. Journey to Well, the podcast, was birthed with the intention to cultivate relationships. You can expect a plethora of conversations on nervous system regulation, breathwork, human design and astrology, cycle alignment, energy and spirituality, and honestly, so much more. But the heart of this community is to witness the journey back home to ourselves, rediscovering our innate power within. I couldn't be more honored to take this journey with you. Be well, my friend, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, welcome back to the podcast, Journey to Well. Today we get to talk about breathwork, which is one of my favorite topics. I think one of my favorite things about talking with different breathwork practitioners is that everyone has a different perspective and everyone has a different experience. So that's one of the reasons I keep having more and more breathwork facilitators on the show. So today we are with Charlie Baldwin. He is a breathwork and meditation instructor with The Art of Living. We're going to talk about actually kind of some like premeditated questions that I was thinking of is what breathwork is and what breathwork isn't, and what we like maybe some preconceived notions that we have around breathwork. So we have a really good conversation for you today. But first, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on. And I would love for you to introduce yourself. Who is Charlie Baldwin?
Thank you, Hannah. Thanks for having me. I have been a practitioner of breathwork and meditation for about 13, 14 years now. And for the last 9 years or so, I have been a facilitator and instructor with the Art of Living Foundation, which is an international organization in many countries around the world. And I specifically teach the Sky Breath Meditation in our Art of Living Part 1 courses, or sometimes known as the Happiness Retreat, if you take it at the Art of Living Retreat Center in Boone, which is where I have lived for the last 7 years. And but I took this program when I was in college, and it had a very profound effect on me. And slowly I just started to lead others in some simple guided meditations in college. And then I became a full Art of Living teacher and started teaching these retreats to college students, and then eventually to retreat goers at the Art of Living Retreat Center, and all sort of different demographics over the years, from prison inmates to those coming out of prison, getting back into society after being institutionalized for some time, and most recently in the last couple of years to law enforcement and first responders. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on, Hannah.
Wow. I love that you have experience with such a breadth of different people, because college students are way different than firefighters and inmates are way different than retreat goers. So I'm curious, because you've had that experience across so many different platforms and holding space for so many different types of people, what similarities and what differences do you find in breathwork? Is it pretty much like a similar breathwork journey throughout, or is it vastly different?
Yeah, so I have found that, when you, on the surface level, everyone has very different things that they're looking for when they come to a retreat, whether it's we're going to I'm going to university, or people are coming up to the retreat center, or we're going to a police department somewhere. On the surface, there seems like there's very different things. Like college students are often, not all the time, but often are looking for ways to focus better or get rid of some of that immediate anxiety that's there. Social anxiety is a big one that I hear for college students. For retreat goers, a lot of times they're looking to, find I just need an escape from my busy life, and I want some tools that I can go back to manage my family and my work balance, and just have some peace in my life. That's something that I hear a lot. It's, of course, is a big spectrum. And then with law enforcement, for example, one thing that we keep hearing is that they're looking for tools to turn off the brain when they just, so much of their day they're in high vigilance. There's this constant fight or flight mode that they're in. And then when they go home to their families, they're still in that heightened state of awareness that is not serving them, and it's not serving their families. and they have trouble sleeping and all sorts of issues that come when you're constantly in that hypervigilant state.
Yes.
So there seems to be like there's all of that certainly there, that there's different things that people are looking for. And but really underneath it all is that people are really looking to get rid of some sort of tension or stress that they're feeling that's stored, whether they're looping thoughts in their mind or circling emotions, worrying. But they're looking for that relief of tension and stress and tapping into some level of peace, some level of contentment that's there that they can use to ride the ups and downs of life. So yeah, there's so many different specific things that people are looking for, but I also have seen that underneath it, really people are just looking to have that sense of calm and centeredness when the mind gets to quiet down a little bit.
Mm. And aren't we all looking for that?
Yes,
Like, I
yes.
think we live in such a fast-paced, busy society and busy world that breathwork is this really incredible tool to not just experience, at least in my experience, it's not just to have that one moment of experiencing peace and tranquility and really like what we're doing is just calming the nervous system, but teaching the body that we can do that with our breath when we're home. We don't have to
Yes.
go through an hour-long breathwork session to experience it once a month or once every few months, but we can really kind of train our nervous system to do that itself,
Yes.
which is a really empowering tool to have because I think a lot of tools are like you have to do this every single day to get there, or you have to go see this person, or you have to take this pill or drink this drink. And if you don't do it, then you're not going to experience XYZ result. But I think that's one of the things that really draws me to breath work is that you can use that to kind of teach the body. And then it's just a few breaths and you can bring the body down and it doesn't have to be this big. Are your breathwork journeys an hour long, or how long do your journeys tend to be?
We have so the typical sky breath meditation practice is 25 to 35 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But in our in all the different courses or talks that we have in the art of living, there's techniques that range from less than a minute to you can do hour long breath work combined with a meditation after and rest. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but I'm right there with you with what you said of that. The breath is this tool that we carry with us wherever we go, and
Mm.
it's there's so many secrets in the breath that at least I was never aware of until this was in college when I started finding out about some of these things. And I was like, how is this not basic education to learn about this connection of the breath and the mind? Because like you said, it's right there. It's always with us and so powerful.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of my questions that I was thinking about is what do you feel like in your experience or your life journey is the difference between controlling your breath and then really like being in relationship with your breath? And is it something, because we're saying you can carry it with you all the time. I mean, you do, you breathe all the time.
Yeah.
So what's the main differences that you felt in like having this sense of, I really have to control it and I have to breathe a certain way and I have to, really, it's like being again in your mind versus being in your body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good question. So one thing that comes up when you're sharing that is that one thing that from my meditation teacher, so Gurudev Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, he's the founder of the Art of Living. He's who created the sky breath meditation. And so one of the things that I think about when he talks about the breath is that life is this combination of control and letting go, of breathing in and breathing out. There's these aspects of setting aside time for going inward and then going out and being dynamic. So there's this balance with everything. And I think for me, there's certainly aspects of the breathwork technique where you're consciously controlling your breath, right? You're controlling how you're breathing over a certain period of time. And then there's aspects like when you go into the meditative states, when you're after you've done a little bit of that control of the breath work, then you're totally in the place of letting go. And it's whatever happens, happens. You're just there observing, being with the body, being with the mind. And so I think that there is that combination, just like there's that combination with almost everything in life, right? Where there's some control, some discipline on one side where you're gonna do some things to break the patterns that might already be there that you're unconscious of. That's one of the core ideas of pranayamas, right? Is that breaking up of the unconscious patterns that are constantly happening there in the body, using the breath to do that because we have some control over the breath, right? There's the mind is more slippery, but we have a little bit more say over the breath. And so having some techniques that really get the breath moving in a specific pattern, but then ultimately leads you to that state of, okay, then you let go, and then you're just observing and being with the body and the mind. And so that's how I see it. Is that making sense? That
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you made that connection, that that's really representative of our outside world too, not just of our inward world with the breath, because that's something that I've learned for sure is as I've continued my breathwork journey, I speak so much of like that dichotomy of like the yin and the yang, the good and the bad, the ups and the downs. And often we have them as two separate things, like the right and the left side are like two separate things, but actually they're always together. Like your right hand and your left hand is part of your body. You can't separate the right hand from the left hand when you're talking about your body. And that's really how breath work is as well, is like you
Yeah.
have that work, but then, and it does feel like work in the beginning sometimes, like it's
Yeah.
really uncomfortable because we're not used to breathing. Think about if you go for a run and you're not a runner, like you're like, oh my gosh, this is work in the beginning, but then you kind of get into that flow. If again, hopefully, well, I don't know. I'm not really a runner, so I never really get that much into the flow, but you do at some point and you get into the flow and then like you're like, oh my gosh, I just ran X amount and I wasn't even really thinking about it. I do think that that's how breath work is as well. And I really love that you're pointing out that when you're kind of in that flow state, that you're just with the body and just being with the body and kind of seeing what shows up and being that curious witness, because we don't really spend a lot of time in our body, do we? Like we really don't spend a lot of time noticing
Way
what's
easier to
going
be up
on.
here often, right? It's way easier to just be like caught up.
Why though? Like this is such a philosophical question, but like why is it so hard for us to be, what is your perspective? What's your answer to that? Why is it hard for us to be in the body and easier to be up in the mind?
Oh, that is a big question. I really don't know the answer to why that is. I mean, it is. I would just say, just in my life, and just to and also just really quickly to go back to what we were saying about like the right and the left hand, and I feel like I've been on both of those sides of the spectrum in my journey, where I was like, the first time I did the breathwork retreat, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to be relaxed, and it's going to be so blissful. And I'm doing these breathwork techniques and I'm so uncomfortable. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling restless. And I'm like, this isn't relaxing. This is like, like, this isn't working. This isn't work. And, and really, as someone explained it to me, similar to how you explained about running, is that just like, yeah, you go to the gym, it's not comfortable to start lifting weights. It's not comfortable to, like you said, start running. And once I started to really appreciate that kind of, okay, you need to accept some discomfort to get to the comfort. Once I started seeing that a little bit more, I was able to, appreciate that. But for me at the beginning, I was definitely on that side of the spectrum of just like, this should just be immediately relaxing and blissful and whatever. And then, yeah, and then I feel like I've also been on the other side of the spectrum too, where I was just like, tried to, control everything for, and perfect. And if I don't do my, breath work exactly perfect, and if I don't feel this during meditation, I'm doing it wrong and I need to do it again or something. And yeah, it's very easy to get caught up in those traps. But yeah, but honestly, I don't have a good answer of like, why do we live in our head? Why is it easier to live in our head? I will say, at least just in the last 15 years or so, I do think that being exposed to the amount of information that we're exposed to on our devices is a
Mm.
factor that allows the mind to get stuck in that realm easier and makes it harder to live in the body. Because I have found that, when you're staring at your screen and scrolling, when you just observe for a minute, you realize, oh, I'm not breathing, and oh, I'm just kind of like looking slack-jawed, and like you're totally disconnected from your body. And so that, at least what I'll say is, I feel like that's a maybe an exaggerating factor of the last 15 years, but I think controlling the mind and figuring out how to, how to not just controlling it, how to be at peace with the mind and find a way where it's serving you instead of working against you, is something that people have been searching for thousands of years, and it's very slippery. So yeah.
Mm. Mm. And there's so many ways, and it's not necessarily about like never being in your mind, but I do like that ability to get out of the mind and into the body. And there's so much science behind using our breath and actually like aiding our mind to get out of itself with breathwork techniques. And I really like I really like that too, because I'm definitely the person that like wants to do it right. And I think that's really interesting that you brought that up, because I do have people in my breathwork journeys that they come out and they're like, I don't know if I did it right. Or like they come out of it and then we have the open share
Mhm.
and somebody shares and then the next person's like, well, I must have done it wrong because I did not have that experience at all.
Yes.
And that's not that. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like you did it. Even if you didn't, like some people come out of it and they're like, I didn't really feel much. Like I did, or I didn't really have that much come up, because sometimes in breathwork journeys, right, we can have like a lot of either
Mhm.
sensation come up, or a lot of like memories come up, or a lot of emotion come up. And what do you say to those people that are like, oh, I think I did it wrong, or like I know that I breathe wrong.
Yeah. No, that this is something that happens all the time, right? When, just like you said, you're coming out, they're sharing, and some person shares they had this experience where they released and they saw this, and someone's like, "What? I didn't. Did you guys do the same thing that I did? I didn't do anything like that."
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, what I tell people right after, before and after all of these sessions, is that, one, that every individual is having a very unique experience. Even though we're doing the exact same technique, the individual experience can be widely different. And even that person can have widely different experiences from the first time to the second time to the third time doing it. And yeah, I think, we all release stress differently, just like we all cope with stress differently. And so, I mean, I'm someone that people will say that sometimes people are convinced that I'm like shining a light over their eyes when I'm doing the breath work, because they're
Yeah.
seeing something, and I'm like, no, I was just I'm just here. But I'm someone that I've never seen anything. I've never heard something in meditation. Never seen.
Yeah.
That's not how I've experienced or released any stress or experienced those deep states. So I always just do my best to, and as well as all the art of living teachers do, just to reassure people that every experience is going to be unique, and each time
Mm.
that you do it is going to be unique. And just seeing it with those fresh eyes, those like beginner like eyes, each time that you do it, knowing that something unexpected could happen, something uncomfortable could happen, and that's okay. Something pleasant can happen, that's also okay. And yeah, so I really just do my best to give that space to knowing that really anything is possible. And I've seen such the spectrum of things over the last 9 years teaching.
Yeah, and you give yourself a lot of permission to experience when you are open. I love that. Like, come into each breathwork journey with open eyes and fresh eyes and curiosity. I have had people like see colors. I've never seen colors. Like, people are like, it's kind of like
Yeah.
this like psychedelic like show of like way different vibrant colors. I love that. I've never heard the light shining in the eyes. That's so interesting.
I've
I've
heard a few
definitely had
people
people
say
be
that.
like, "Oh, I felt like you were touching me,"
Mm.
and like, and I do like I do hands-on assistance, but I've had people like feel like I was still touching them when I walked away, or that like I touched them like maybe by their feet when I was touching them by their head. And I love stuff like that because I'm always just like, maybe it was like your angels or somebody, like coming. And what did that represent to you? Like to have somebody touch your feet, or to see this color, what did that mean to you? And like just kind of integrate that a little bit more in the days after your breathwork journey, I think is really interesting. But coming in with it with like an open mind, I think is really cool. Another question that I had that came up was, what have you come to trust about the human body itself that you didn't really understand when you first started breathwork?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is that so when I was in college and I was just starting to read about some of this stuff. And so my first intro to anything like this at all was Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. And that just got me interested of like, oh, like maybe there's something there with the breath. Maybe like that just like opened my mind to being interested in things like yoga and breath work. So I remember like starting to read these books and thinking like, what are all these like chakras? Like, is this all made up? Like, is all these energy centers, like, is this just a bunch of BS that people are, making up? And I just was so out of touch with my body that I would tell people that maybe just because I had so much caffeine growing up as a kid and so much sugar, like I didn't know how those things, like I didn't even feel an impact on the body of like having a bunch of caffeine or having a bunch of sugar. Like I just didn't,
Mm,
it was affecting me, but I just didn't observe that.
mm,
I just didn't have that awareness of my body. And so after some time of practicing breath work and especially doing some of the Art of Living Silence courses where you do some specific deep meditations on those silent retreats that really kind of bring you through the energy centers of the body.
wow.
And I just became so much more, just so much more in tune with the feelings that were happening in the different parts of my body and being able to observe them and knowing that if I observe the uncomfortable feelings, that it doesn't just get worse and worse forever, that eventually the observation flips into something pleasant or pleasurable or joyful, that just the act of consciously observing something that's uncomfortable in the body has some sort of positive effect. And I don't certainly don't know how exactly that happens, but there is something that is powerful with just conscious attention on something that you are initially resisting is
Mm,
a powerful mechanism for flipping it. And
mm,
so that for me was one of these. So knowing now that when I'm feeling that discomfort in the body somewhere, whether it's in my stomach or my chest or in my throat, that just, okay, I don't have to run from it, that it's okay to sit and be with that and observe that and dive into why, not even in an intellectual level, but just really sitting with that feeling of discomfort and knowing that that's a part of life and that eventually it will also move and that it's probably trying to tell me something. There's probably something
mm,
that I could learn from just observing that. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but that's what I think of when I like when it comes to trusting my body, of just feeling. It was just a big step for me to even feel anything going on in my body in the first place. And so that in the last however many years has been a really, that has become such a big part of my life now, is just observing what's happening and finding the wisdom in it, really.
What did you find was the most difficult part of slowing down and observing what's going on in your body and where it's going on and sitting in that discomfort?
I think the most difficult part for me is the feeling that I should like the feeling that I should be further ahead than I am at any given part of like the feeling that I should already be like I should have already moved through this, like
Oh,
sometimes the idea of like, oh, we're we're not only am I a breath work, I do breath work every day, I do meditation every day. I'm also a facilitator of this. There's sometimes you get the idea of like, well, I should never experience any discomfort. I'm doing things to take care of my healing every day. How could I possibly feel any discomfort? And then sometimes that can be like, oh, okay, well, hold on. Then you come back to the practices and then you can, eventually move through it. But I think for me, that's sometimes the biggest the block that can come is that like I I shouldn't be feeling this now. I should have already moved through this. Something,
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense? That feeling that
No, it
we should be
does.
further along some sort of imaginary path than we already are.
It's like this expectation that you put on yourself,
Yes.
but it's so real. And thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that, because I think that resonates with everyone, no matter if you are a facilitator or a space holder or a business owner or,
Yeah.
a boss or a mentor. Like if you're in this position of leadership, or if you are, I mean, we're all in a position of leadership somewhere in our life, whether you're a parent, a sibling, again, like a mentor, a boss, whatever. But I definitely feel that too. And just that idea of being healed. I think that when we start our healing journey, and I'm putting that in quotes if you're not watching the video, because I like hate, I don't know, I have a whole like thing on that. But when we start our healing journey, I really do think that we start it with this expectation of I'm going to be healed. And do you make progress? Absolutely. Whether your ankle, you broke your ankle is going to heal, right? Like you put it in the cast, you put it in the best healing environment, but that ankle is always going to be broken. Like you're always going to have and I'm not saying you're always going to have pain, but like if you broke something, you have that crack. Just like when you break a vase, you know that what is that? What is that art where they have the gold flecks where they like paint with gold when it's a broken vase? Do you
Oh,
know what
I
I'm
know
talking about?
exactly. I don't know the name of it, but I know what
Okay.
you're talking
So
about.
it's
Yeah.
like that, right? So like it's put back together, but there's always going to be those cracks in that vase. It's the same thing with your healing journey. Like you're never fully healed and you're never fully further than where you want to be,
Yep.
and allowing yourself to sit in that discomfort also of the expectation. I think would be interesting of like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm noticing that I expect myself to be further on this journey in XYZ.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Like, where does that expectation come from? And can I allow
Yeah.
myself to just sit with that expectation and again, not like intellectualize it? That's really interesting. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that, because I
Yeah.
really do think it will resonate. It resonates because we always want to be further than where we're at. Like we don't really spend a lot of time here. Like, let me be so happy to be here in this podcast with you in where I am in my life right now. That's something that I've been really meditating on a lot, because like there's always things that we want more of. Like you want to grow your business, you want to get married, you want to buy a house, whatever it is. And can I allow myself to like be truly, truly present right here and happy
Mhm.
right now without being like, I appreciate where I am, but I'm going to be happier when I have a house,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've played that game so many times.
Yeah.
We love, there's something about that the mind loves to move the goalposts of the happiness. That this is one of the first things that that Guru Dev actually put in the Art of Living, like in the Art of Living Part 1 course, that I get why it's the first point, because I my mind will constantly go there all of the time, that it's like, yeah, no, everything's good now, but like, but when this happens, then it's gonna be, that's when I'm really gonna be set. Or when, oh, once this thing that's like kind of uncomfortable leaves my life, then I'll be okay, then I'll be able to be relaxed. And it's like those things are always gonna be there.
Yeah.
And that is something that it's like learning how to be with those things with acceptance is definitely part of my journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also one thing when you were talking about the thing with the vase, one of the things that I ideas that I've been thinking about, especially in the last like couple years, is and it's something I one of the things I'm interested in is the last few years of seeing different movies that are just pop culture movies, but through a spiritual lens. And I remember reading a book on the creators of Pixar, the people who like founded Pixar and started
Mhm.
writing Pixar stories, and what makes like all the elements that make a really solid movie that people just fall in love with and love the characters. And I remember reading that one of the things that makes that you absolutely need to have in your protagonist for the people to fall in love with them are apparent flaws. Like they need to have
Mm.
flaws that people can feel that connection with. And that was like a big moment for me when I read that, where I was like, that's so interesting, because in my life, I feel like I'm trying to constantly get rid of all of my flaws as soon as I can. As soon as I acknowledge I have a flaw, I need to get rid of it, and I need to be perfect and just and show that perfection out into the world. And then it's like, well, but then I'm reading this and I'm saying, well, people actually fall in love with people that they can see their flaws. So that was like a big, what is it called? Dissonance in my head of like, wait, how does like I realized that I was doing this thinking that I need to be perfect and come across as perfect, but that actually, those things that we think are flaws or these imperfections are actually part of what make us unique and what makes people connect with us. And so that's something I do try to remember and come back to every now and then, is that perfection there is just in my own head and not actually what other people want, not actually what
Mhm.
makes what I want. And yeah, so I don't know if that resonates at all,
Love
but that's something
that.
that just came up
Oh
when you were
my
talking.
gosh. Yeah. Well, it's this whole idea of perfectionism, like whether we realize it or not, I think a lot of us want to, because again, I guess if we're getting really deep, I think that our biggest desires in life is to be loved and to be accepted. And
Yeah.
so you want to kind of present yourself in this way that you feel you will be most loved and accepted, which is perfect, which is not broken. And it's this fear of like, if I'm broken, then I won't be loved and accepted. Or you can also do it in a little bit of a different lens of like facilitator, right? Like I definitely do agree. Like I want to present myself of this, like I have all of this wisdom and all of this knowledge, and like I've been on this journey, and again, kind of like this healed version of yourself, because we want to present this beautiful picture of this is where you can get if you do the
Hmm.
work that I've been doing. And while there's some truth to that, it does make you very unrelatable if you're not exposing those wounds and that brokenness, because everyone has trauma, whether it's big or small, or big, big to them and small to another
Yeah.
person. It's all like a matter of your perspective and your life experience, but being able to hold yourself in that, oh, okay, I don't have to be perfect, then
Hmm.
you're really expanding your capacity to hold someone else, and
Hmm.
giving them permission to allow you to hold them in that space of,
Yeah.
okay, I can be fully broken because like this person is broken. And that's so true. I mean, that's how we relate to movies, is you
Yeah.
have to be able to see yourself in that person. And the deepest connections is the ones often that I think that we hide from other people, but if you can see it, then you're like, oh, that's why I like talking about things that like we don't really talk about openly often with other people, because it gives it brings it to light, and it gives a little bit of permission to that person to be like, oh wait, no, I can, oh, I can talk about this because
Yeah.
I heard it talked about on this podcast, or whatever it is. Like, oh, I can talk about this. That's wild, because there's
Mhm.
definitely been times in my life, and again, just pick the topic. There's things that I'm sure I don't talk about that, as open as I am, that I'm like, that's too much for me to talk about.
Mhm.
And there's things like
Yeah,
that in everyone's life.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and like you said, like I think that there's, I have found it's really important to have those, and it's for they can be different containers for different, like there's some, but some group of people whether it's in a spiritual group or some group of people that you can go to and share those flaws. You like, for example, I'm thinking, okay, if you're an elementary school teacher, you're obviously not going to share all of your flaws with your kids, right? Like that's
Yep.
not like there's certain containers in life that are more appropriate than others, but I think
Mhm.
oftentimes it starts with kind of our own, like we don't even want to bring it to our own conscious mind. So like I'm
Mhm.
definitely not going to tell it to anyone. And that's where things that yeah, that it just, it doesn't serve us when we're just hiding those flaws from our own mind and not sharing them with others. So
Which
yeah.
loops back to breath work, right? Like that's a container where you can create
Mhm.
for yourself to begin, because you don't have to share with me or
Mhm.
anyone else in the group what you just what journey you went through. You can be silent at the end, but you can still create that container to begin to, and how profound. Like that's really a good point of we have to allow ourselves to bring it up to ourselves first before we bring it up with anyone else. And where is that safe container that you're creating for yourself to really hold yourself there, and then explore, like, why is this something that feels unsafe or not okay to bring up into the light? Which oftentimes, like going back to the resistance thing that we were talking about,
Mhm.
oftentimes we spend so much time and effort resisting like a
Oh yeah.
feeling or an emotion or a
Mhm.
sensation. And we might spend like, right, I don't know, 3 weeks resisting feeling this emotion. And then in breath work, it takes 30 seconds
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
feel it and you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Oh, that's
Wild.
that's been me before.
Ugh,
I see so many people, right? It's that the not even wanting to sit with the emotion is what makes it linger longer, right? It's just
yeah.
that I can't feel it, and yeah, that is, before someone told me this, before getting into meditation or breath work, I never was even aware that there was this connection that each emotion that we experience has a corresponding rhythm or type of breath with it. Like, if you think about it, when you're angry, we breathe a certain way, right?
Mm.
And when we're sad, we breathe a certain way, right? There's that long exhale, the sigh. And we're happy, we breathe a certain way. And I wasn't even aware of that until someone in the art of living, when I was doing my first couple of courses, was sharing this. And then it just became, yeah, of course it's so obvious. And this is one of those core ideas behind breathwork, is that that's not just a one-way street. That's not just that your emotions impact your breath, but then having some conscious say over your breath, then you can also then impact your state of mind, uplift the state of mind, and move through, process those emotions much more easily. And I think, I don't know if you've experienced this also being in your teaching breathwork, but sometimes people will say that, like, oh, is if I just do meditation and breath work, am I just like avoiding the problems of my life? Shouldn't I just go actually and solve a problem in my life, instead of just like, is it just bypassing these problems? And what how I usually respond is that these tools actually allow you to, you're not suppressing it. You're not just saying, oh, I won't feel this. You're saying, you're actually giving yourself the space for you to sit with those things that are already inside of you, and you're giving that space for it to process and to come out. And so breath work, just like you said, is one of those ways that you can process something that you've been resisting for so long, but then your breath can bring it right up to the surface, and then, oh, whew,
Mhm.
okay, now I'm so glad I did that. And you feel that
Mhm.
even if it's uncomfortable during it, that relief that you feel after is always worth it once you get into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think spiritual bypassing is definitely a thing, and we have to really be like honest with ourselves. What are we doing?
Mhm.
But at least what it sounds like, kind of your breathwork containers hold, and I know that mine do as well. Is, are we giving ourselves that container to express it if it wants to be expressed? And
Mhm.
that expression can be in the form of crying, screaming, yelling, punching. It can also be an expression like of your body. Like it doesn't have to be this like verbal expression. It can be a movement, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like flailing. It can be a small movement too. So I'm want to be mindful like that all expressions are vastly different,
Mhm.
but are you giving your body that container to express, and then holding yourself in that and kind of like bringing your nervous system back down into safety. Because oftentimes, why I say like sometimes we don't have huge expressions if this is your first time doing a breathwork journey is because your body doesn't feel safe to have these huge
Yeah.
expressions. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you didn't get anything out of the breathwork journey. It's just like, your first time in the ocean, a child's first time, let's say,
Mhm.
in the ocean, like they typically aren't gonna like plunge right in. I mean, maybe they will if again they feel safe, like with their parent, whatever. This is a whole. If you feel really safe with your parents, that you feel like your parents would be able to save you, whatever. But like a child, you're not gonna just plunge right into the ocean. You might walk in and feel the cold water and then walk back out. Does that mean that that was an unsuccessful trip to
Mm.
the ocean? No, because you're dipping
Right.
your toe in. And that's how breath work is too. And can you create that container of safety within yourself? It's the practitioner too, and like the space, but it's mostly within your own soma, your own body, to then be able to hopefully eventually, yeah, be able to feel those emotions. But that's not I think my only experience that I would say, are we avoiding is if you're going into a breathwork journey of like, I'm just going to breathe this all away and not allow myself to feel it, but
Mm.
just breathe like the calming breath and like calm my nervous system
Mhm.
and not allow myself to feel the emotion. But
Mhm.
I think there's also benefits to that too, probably. But yeah,
Yeah.
interesting, like the bypassing thing of, yeah, are you using breathwork? But I really do see breathwork as a releasing tool,
Mhm.
not as a bypassing tool. It's an opportunity to really sit and explore expressions that want to
Mhm.
come out that maybe we don't allow. Like I was talking to somebody that came to my breathwork class a while ago,
Yeah.
and they were saying I don't really cry, but I
Mm.
do in breathwork. And what I've learned is I kind of have to give myself that container to
Mhm.
cry.
Mhm.
And I think that that's beautiful. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. And
Mhm.
probably because I'm very similar. Like I have to create this container, whether it's listening to a sad song or like I cry in my
Mhm.
car because it feels safe, like I'm held in my car. And I love crying in a breathwork journey because I feel safe and held. And I don't think that I would say for my life, I don't think that I'm avoiding crying. It's that
Mhm.
I need the right container. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes
Mm.
sense. Yeah. I'm I'm someone that I can I can cry a little bit more on the drop of a dime.
Good
Yeah.
movies make
Oh,
me cry.
yeah, good
I'll
movies.
happy cry. I'll happy cry on like
Yeah.
a drop of the dime. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just like, I love you so much and I'll cry. But
Yeah.
but like sad cry, it takes me
Yeah.
I do need that container
That
to
makes
sad
sense. Yeah.
cry. Which I love. I mean, again, but where does that feel safe for you? Like I've always been that. I've always when I was a kid, I would go up to my room and cry. Like I
Mhm.
would not want to cry in front of people. So even
Mhm.
crying in a breathwork journey, that was a whole experience for me
Mhm.
and learning how to cry in front of people, or not how
Yeah.
to, but learning that it's okay to cry in front of people.
Yeah.
That was a journey.
Yeah. What and one thing that that I've seen doing the teaching all sorts of different demographics, as you can imagine, there's people coming on a retreat are feeling one different way than like law enforcement officers being with their law enforcement buddies and how open they might be with certain
Ooh.
things. And so oftentimes we find that in the breath work itself or immediately after there's like a little bit of that just like contain like the people of okay, I experienced something, I don't know what I can share, how much I
Mm.
should share. And then usually like after the session has ended, some people start leaving, we'll have some people come up to us and then sometimes that emotion starts releasing. So yeah, 100% what you're saying is that there needs to be some container where people feel, and that looks different for different people, of where they feel safe and how they feel that it's wherever they've given themselves permission to really emotionally open up. And we try to make that space as much as possible, as I'm sure you do, as like the any facilitator. But for
Yeah.
it will be different for different people of what is the environment that allows them to feel that to open up.
Yeah. Yeah, because safety is going to feel different for everyone. What is
Yeah.
safety? There's basic things that make you feel safe, but like what really makes you feel safe? And that's interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a final question that will take us a few minutes to answer. I
Okay. Sure.
hope. I think it's a good question. But before we do the final question, where can people follow up with you if they're interested in learning more about Sky Breath? If they're interested in connecting with you, where do you hang out the most?
Yeah, probably Instagram is probably the easiest one. So it's Char J Baldwin. So CHARJ Baldwin. So Instagram is mostly where I am. I do post some TikToks on the same handle, and then I teach sometimes at the Art of Living Retreat Center in Boone. So if you just aolrc.org is the website for that. And then I'll also be teaching now that I'm kind of in a transition period here. I'll be teaching online here shortly soon. So, but on Instagram is where I'll be posting that stuff.
AOL is like bringing me back to like a instant
Oh
messaging.
yeah,
It's like
right.
AOL, the
America
art of
Online.
living. Makes
Yeah.
sense. So last question is what's one question that you wish more people would sit with? And that could be in a breathwork journey, it could just be in
Mm.
life, but what is one question that you wish more people would sit with?
Oh, that's good. Let me think about that for a moment.
That's deep.
Here's one that I've been chewing on for the last few years that comes up is if I if I if I believe that I chose all of the problems in my life and all of the things that I thought were uncomfortable, and if I was the one that actually created my life of how I want it to be before I came into this body, I like exploring the question of why would I have made that for myself? Like, why would I have put this obstacle in my life there? Like, why would I have put this person who I have a really hard time working with? Like, why would I have chosen to work with them? And I feel like for me, that question it has like it's allowed myself to see things from a different perspective of that in the moment, often the things that in the moment are the most uncomfortable are the things that allow us to grow and open up in a way that we just wouldn't have done if we did not have that difficult thing in front of us. And so, like, I mean, just for me, like, I remember, I mean, one of the first things that really, uh, like cracked open my spiritual like starting to even explore that realm was in at the very end of high school. I was like so I was the vice president of my school, and at
Mhm.
the end of senior year I had this big realization that it was actually when I was actually high at a basketball game. It was like towards the end of the year, and I had this realization of like I did not live how I didn't live the highest version of myself in high school. Like I
Um,
realized like I was kind of selfish. Like I was I only was vice president just to add it to my resume, but I could have done some cool things. Like I could have
um,
done things to serve people. And I think that there was a lot of things that led up to that that made me really like, oh, like I just didn't like how I was living. And it was like the lowest moment of high school for me, but that was the thing
mhm.
that opened me up to being like starting to explore the world of spirituality. And for me at that time that was reading the Bible more and reading more about Jesus, and that was the lens that I was really diving into at the end of high school. And so when I think about that, I was like, well, why would I have done all of these things? Like I put all these obstacles, a lot of those I put in front of myself, but those things that when I felt the worst is actually when I was open to having the biggest change and in a way that I like evolving in a way that was really exciting and where I really wanted my life to go. So Yeah, that might be a few questions I kind of mushed together, but that's what came up when I thought about that.
I love that. I've been seeing in the themes of my podcast like guests recently. I've been really seeing this theme of what if and don't get turned off by like I always get turned off by like what if this is all a simulation, but like that idea of what if you chose to be here in this life experiencing exactly what you're saying, experiencing what you're experiencing. And I love that you added that of like if that is true, if I chose this life, if I believe that, which I also believe personally, then why would I have chose the people and the experiences and like why would I have chose this game, this version of the game for myself? And then I mean, for me, I always like lead that to like what am I here to learn in this
Yeah,
situation?
right,
And
right.
what am I not learning? But that's really wild, and that's a really cool experience that you had in high school. If like because you were really young. Like I don't
Yeah,
feel
I
like
was I was like I don't know if I'd even turned 18 yet. I was like,
yeah.
and
I
I
don't think
just
I had that like insight when I was 18 of like, am I living the highest version of myself? And if not, then how is that person? Like what would have
yeah.
to shift in my life if I'm not living the highest version of myself right now? What would be shifting? And that service aspect, I mean, yeah, now you're like such a person of service. You're holding such beautiful space for so many people. So I really like that kind of full circle moment, but that's a really good question. Like if I chose this life, why did I
Yeah.
choose these experiences? And you know what else it does, which I like harp on all the time, but we do get stuck in this like, why is this happening to me? But like not a curious question. Like, why is
Right.
this happening to me? It's like, fuck, why is this happening to me?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
why? Like, why does this keep coming up? And then we can get stuck in that like
Yeah.
victim mindset instead of, oh, I wonder why I chose this. Like,
Yes.
I wonder why my
Yes.
soul and my spirit. And that's just such a lighter, higher vibration, same question, but higher
Yeah.
vibration of curiosity and like, ooh, I wonder why. Like, what did my past self go through that like put my present self through this?
Yeah.
And that's interesting. Like, that would
And
be cool
I
to,
know I know I've heard variations of people ask that question, so I don't know. I wish I could remember who to attribute like where I heard versions of that to, but
yeah,
I think just like what you said is the reason why it resonated with me so much is because when if I get in that victim mindset of like we all get into that of like why me? Like why is this happening to me? Like I don't want this right now, so why is it
yeah.
happening? And it like you said, it's the same question, but just with a different energy that
Yeah.
really is that yeah, I really find that to be helpful in my life and
Mhm.
seeing things as like that learning experience. Like I'm in this classroom, I don't need to have all the answers and
Mhm.
there's something to be learned, and that's
Wow.
fine, that's good, that's a why we're here to learn things. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was so fun. I loved all of this discussion, and you are such a beautiful human with so much beautiful life experience. So thank you for sharing your voice and your insight and your wisdom with the world. I appreciate
Thank,
you.
thank you, Hannah. Thank you for hosting such a great podcast and all of the work that you do as well.
Thanks. Thank you so much for being here. Truly, your support and love is the foundation of this community and this podcast. If you find yourself in a season of life ready to explore your inner landscape deeper, or perhaps you feel like you've tried all the things and nothing has worked, here's your gentle invitation to come back home. Align and Embody is my signature coaching container that is created to explore our soma, our living wholeness. Perhaps the answers you seek truly do live within. You just need to learn the communication of your body. Align and Embody combines the three pillars of my business: human design, somatic breathwork, and cycle alignment. Head to the link in this description to learn more, or better yet, reach out on Instagram @_journey to well. I'd be honored to connect with you. Be well on this journey, my friend. Talk soon.